Valorant's cast of agents has been the focal point behind how this game has been balanced for the past year. With a solid original roster to start, and 5 nice additions in the game's first year of life, Riot has been off to a good start with diversifying the agent pool and offering interesting new gameplay. But one agent in particular has been in the spotlight with how cool he is conceptually, but how badly he actually plays in-game. I'm sure you guys know who we're already talking about. What's going on, ProGuides family? It's your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we're going to talk about the state of the current worst agent in the game, Yoru. We'll cover the context of his release, why he is currently struggling, and give some insight on how Riot could change him to better fit into the game's current meta. Speaking of better fitting into the game's meta, if you are a player that is struggling to adapt to the meta, or you are an aspiring high-ranked player looking for resources to improve, our high-elo coaches on ProGuides.com are more than excited to lend you a helping hand. We have also partnered up with some amazing pro players who have competed in VCT Iceland, Sentinels 10s, and Team Liquid Scream. They have released courses that will no doubt elevate your gameplay. If any of this speaks to you, come check us out. Now, let's get right into the video. Yoru is the 14th agent that was added into Valorant's roster back in January in the start of Episode 2, Act 1. The game hadn't seen a duelist edition of Valorant's agent lineup since Reyna was introduced on the game's official launch day, and boy was he a dream come true. Yoru is an edgy, blue-haired anime protagonist that can flash, teleport, and outplay enemies. I think it's not an overstatement when I say that pretty much everyone in the community was super hyped for Yoru's release. But although people were extremely hyped for his release as a concept, a lot of people still felt anxious regarding how well Yoru would function. The idea of having an agent that is meant to be flashy and have great outplay tools is awesome, but the practicality of that in a tactical FPS seemed contradictory to his design. So there was a big question of whether he would be too overpowered or underpowered. Many pro players had the opinion that he would have no place on a coordinated team, and simply gave too much information to really outplay enemies or do any other jobs. His skills were better off used to flash his teammates in rather than himself. And when Yoru was released, the pros were right. Yoru as an agent simply did not work like his concept hoped to achieve. And as quickly as people became hyped for Yoru, they also quickly lost interest in this dysfunctional duelist. So, now that 5 months have passed since his release, he has seen some reworks and buffs, yet some core reasons maintain his weaknesses as an agent. My goal here is to keep this explanation of why Yoru is weak simple and unbiased. There are 3 main reasons for why Yoru is the weakest agent in the game. The first reason is that he has no true identity in the game that separates him from the other duelists and the rest of the agent cast. The second reason is that every other duelist does his job just slightly better because they have something about them that gives them the advantage over Yoru. And the third reason is that Yoru's abilities are clunky and have low impact due to how Riot has balanced him as an outplay agent, which I think is going in the wrong direction. Simply put, there isn't a single ability in Yoru's kit that would make you want to pick him over the other duelists. Basically, every other duelist has one ability or ultimate that would make the average player want to use them over Yoru. To expand upon the first reason, Yoru as an agent is focused on the ideal design of an agent capable of outplaying enemies. If you were to ask me, I would say that Yoru's kit was designed to support lurking and flanking. He has flashes that can be used long range that allow him to sneak into bomb sites and allows for him to pop flash himself into and out of tight spaces. He has a gate crash that is quiet enough to be snuck past players and allow for him to teleport behind enemies and get cheeky flank kills. I mean, even his ultimate is a game-changing tool that an agent could want that would give him the chance to sneak up behind enemy players and allow for him to scout out areas and call them out to his teammates. And the idea was that if you could find a pocket in their setup, you could fly through a heavily contested area and then instantly come out of your ult and gun down people before they even have a chance to turn around. Even his fake footsteps can be put down in preset locations, and you can activate them when you're on the opposite side of the map to throw some players through a loop. The problem with Yoru is that on paper, his kit sounds like the ultimate lurk and flank-based agent that's supposed to use a ninja playstyle to outsmart and outplay his opponents. The issue is, this never actually happens in game. His gate crash, if used offensively, will potentially run into an enemy and get camped. And if it's not noticed, the sound of his teleport would definitely give it away. His flashes are great, but they don't empower his own entry capabilities. Instead, his flash would probably be better used to pop flash for his teammates to entry, in which case he's not even a duelist at that point. His ultimate has too much counterplay because you can see and hear him when he gets too close to you. Not to mention the slow animations he has when he tries to get himself in and out of it. And if we're being completely honest, his footsteps are useless, because they really aren't fooling anybody unless they're brand new to the game, or if they just have zero in-game awareness and can't differentiate his fake-out footsteps from real footsteps. In simpler words, Yoru's kit doesn't function in-game like how the devs intended it to. Most of his kit isn't really going to fool anybody, and if he relies on his abilities too hard, he's going to get himself killed more often than not. Yet, if he doesn't use his kit, then he's just another agent, not some duelist that has empowered entry. Yoru is inferior to his duelist counterparts because they all do his job of being an entry frag better than he can. Phoenix has curvable flashes, a flame wall, and a scouting ultimate that allows for him to corner enemies and create space on a bomb site for his team to follow him in. Reyna has flashes that can draw gunfire and attention, and while she needs a good amount of setup to entry, she has self-healing and invulnerability after she gets a kill. Not to mention, her ult makes her the Terminator, and that is enough to potentially get an ace on sight, or make everyone flee the area and wait for her ult to run out. Jet can throw smokes down and dash into them to allow for herself to get into sight undetected, and her knives and jumping capabilities allow for her to get around obstacles that the defenders could put in her way as sight denial. This is the ultimate way to create space for her team, on top of being a major distraction that allows for her teammates to follow up and support or trade her. Raze can satchel jump off high places and fly into a site like flights, and create space just as well as Jet can in many situations. Along with that, she has some ridiculous damage in her utility that can function as area denial or as unavoidable distractions. That mixed with the potency of her ultimate makes her a very big threat on site takes. All these agents have not only creative but reliable ways to break open sites and get their teammates inside without too many casualties. Now, you have to look at Yoru and say, what does he have that's better than the other duelist's strengths? And after you ask yourself that, you have to follow up with one word: nothing. Because currently, Yoru does not have a single ability that is as useful as the other duelist's main strengths. Sure, you can send a gate crash up C long on Haven and flash twice before teleporting in, but more likely than not, you're not going to be in a very good position to get a kill. And there's also a chance that either your flashes won't work as you intended, or your teleport is mistimed and it gets found out by the enemies. If anything, those two flashes could probably have been better used to support your teammates on the site, in which case, why not just play an initiator like Skye? Yoru simply just doesn't work well in game with the current tools he has in his kit. To expand on the third reason, like I said before, each duelist has abilities that allow them to inflict their will on the enemy or drastically impact the round. For example, Phoenix's ult allows him to have a second life for entering into sight. Reyna can heal herself to keep re-engaging enemies. Jet's dash is a get out of jail free card after she gets caught out. Raze's ultimate and grenades can get multi-kills and wipe a bomb site clean. Yoru just doesn't have a single ability in his kit that has as much impact as the other duelists do. His ultimate is a pretty dangerous tool that won't give him kill potential. His gate crash is a big red flag to anyone within half the map's distance to him. His flashes are better used to help people entry, and his footsteps are just a big question mark on whether it really affects a round. Yoru has several problems in the game surrounding his kit, and the devs need to completely remove or overhaul them in order for him to be viable. Buffs to his in-game numbers and making his animations faster aren't going to cut it if they want to bring this agent out of the C tier in the meta. Before we move on, it's time for our question of the day. Today's question is, what do you think needs to be changed for Yoru to become viable? And no, I'm not talking about becoming Ethos or Red. As much as I want to say they make Yoru seem playable, I don't think that the agent is doing them any favors in expressing their insane skills. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. We'd love to hear what you guys think and maybe start a discussion on balancing our favorite dysfunctional agent. Now, let's get right back into the video. Okay, now that we have more context on why Yoru is weak, let's give a little insight on how we would improve Yoru to make him a better version of himself. These changes are not confirmed by Riot. This is only speculation as to what we think needs to be changed. However, we do know that Riot does plan to buff Yoru in some way from their recent State of the Agents address. We made a video on that too if you want to see what that's all about. First off, Yoru's C ability Fake Out Footsteps needs to be either completely removed or completely overhauled. This ability is not dynamic with its sound, and that means anyone who has played more than 2 games against Yoru is not going to get fooled by those footsteps unless they have zero in-game awareness. So, since this ability is dead weight on his kit's roster, it needs to go. I would replace his Fake Out with some type of ability that would either help him compete with other duelists' healing or their mobility, or give him an ability that helps his lurking capabilities. One idea that I saw on Reddit a while ago was to give Yoru Dead Silence when he activates his C ability for a short time. The duration should be no longer than 5 to 8 seconds, but I believe a Dead Silence type of ability that can be used while running would instantly make Yoru the best lurker and flanker in the game hands down. This ability would not be game breaking because you can only use it once a round, and it lasts for only a few seconds. And maybe another way to balance it is to give it an audio cue so that you could play mind games on your enemies as well. Maybe you could use it to flank an area, or even use a silent gate crash, or maybe force an enemy to peek into your teammate thinking that you were sneaking up. Next up, Yoru's gate crash is honestly fine as it is. After his last rework where his gate crash is now on a cooldown timer instead of a get 2 kills to reset system, I think this ability is in a good place in his kit. The only thing is the massive audio cue that comes when he uses it. As much as I think that there needs to be some indication of him gate crashing, it's not very helpful if his ability that takes him into enemy territory comes with a dinner bell ringing as well. Yoru's flashes are honestly the best part of his kit currently. They are one of the most dynamic flashes because you can throw them long range and they bounce. If you are experienced, you can even use them as pop flashes and bend them around corners to catch people off guard. The only issue currently is that his flashes aren't very useful for enabling his kit, and if anything, they are better used as support flashes. If a duelist's flashes are better used for his teammates than himself, then that says a lot about his agent design. But I guess we have to be thankful that he still has some value, because if his flashes were weak too, then Yoru would be unplayable in the higher ranks. And finally, Yoru's ult is in a great place as is. I don't think it needs to be fundamentally changed or overhauled. Maybe give it a buff that makes him silent when walking past people no matter how close he is, so that way he can actually sneak behind people. I understand that he is visible to nearby enemies for balance reasons, but the sound he currently makes allows for him to be tracked and followed by thirsty players that want a free kill. So give it some counterplay by making it harder to detect him, so that he can have some form of survivability in his ult. Also, please fix the bugged animations where he can start shooting before he's even fully out of his ultimate. There's nothing more rage-inducing than players that learn how to animation cancel his ultimate and start shooting before he even fully steps out. Well guys, that's all we have for this video. Let us know what you think about the state of Yoru in Valorant. If you guys enjoy the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell notification icon to ensure you stay ahead of the competition with the latest Valorant news, updates, and guides. If you'd like further help, feel free to check out our website ProGuides.com for the very best on-demand coaching. This has been your host Sergeant Frost, and I will see you all in the next one.